I could not be more excited to introduce my next guest, Dave Savage. Dave, you are one of my favorite humans, and we have gone through a ton together over the years, and I've loved watching you. You were one of my heroes growing up in the mortgage industry, which makes me sound young and you sound old, but we're close. But like you've been a legend for, huh?
I said I do have a few years on you.
Just a few. But you went at it so hard in bringing the message to the industry of like just make things better for consumers, and every consumer deserves the most and the best information possible. And you are an undying advocate and promoter of what you have created and what you did to help people. So I don't know that anybody doesn't know you, Dave Savage, but I count you as a friend, and I'm very happy you're going to spend some time with me today. So welcome.
Well, I consider you a great friend, and I consider you one of the best humans in mortgage and housing. And every time I'm with you, I get fired up and inspired. So I love the vision of your new podcast. Honored to be part of it, and can't wait to have this conversation.
Right on. Well, dude, let me start by saying I've already gotten so much from you, and I want to share some of those things just right out the gate, because you and I got to spend 3 days together at your house, and you opened up your house to me, and I was like, I'm just going to find out like how you're living and what life is like for you, and what, the way Dave Savage wakes up and the way Dave Savage lives his day. And I got to just be there, and you already taught me, dude. I'm still on that acupressure mat. I'm meditating on the acupressure mat constantly. I'm meditating still more than I've never been this consistent. I've, workout as a focus, like watching the way you manufacture your life, like the way you live on purpose. I just took those things away and I haven't stopped. So can you start just by talking to me about the things you do on a daily basis? Because you really do strategize the way you want to live.
Well, I mean, I think most high-performing folks that have a good mindset, they have sustainable success, do have a lot of intention with how they start their day. You and I share the gift of ADD. I don't remember if you're dyslexic. Are you?
I was diagnosed early with dyslexia. I haven't dealt with it. It went away at an early age, or at least it became undiagnosed at that point.
Yeah, well, it's never gone away, and I still have those, and I do at this point in my life consider them gifts. I mean, when I was going through institutional education, they were definitely challenges, but I have those things, and I don't do any medication for my ADD other than meditation. So you got to experience how I use meditation to calm myself, a lot of breathing exercises. I mean, I've always started early. I mean, that's not like, oh, I want to be successful, so I want to start early. It's like, I just wake up early. I do go to bed pretty early, but even if I didn't go to bed early, I'm still going to wake up early because I'm just wired that way. It's been like that for my entire life, from being a little kid to through my adult, even through the crazy days when I was, going to college or going to college and not going to college. I still, even when I stayed up late, I woke up early. But I mean, as you got to see, I'm pretty intentional about my, meditation. When I wake up in the morning, my meditation when I go to bed. I think I'd only started using that acupuncture mat a few months before you spent the night with me, so that was a fairly new thing for me. But my son did it. He was having some back issues, and my wife got in this acupuncture mat. But I read every morning. I listen to podcasts every morning. I pump positivity into my head. I mean, I have a firm belief that fear and negativity don't live in the same mindset as gratitude. And so I try to, pump as much gratitude in my brain to the point where it's just become a habit. I don't know. What were some of the things you pulled out of the time we spent together?
I think the biggest thing for me was you do those things so that you can operate at the highest level. And then I watched you operate at the highest level. Like the part of the ADHD thing for me is the same for you, is we can bounce from thing to thing to thing and like just rock every single one of them with the same amount of energy. Like it's what we do. And so you've acknowledged, if that's how I live, then these are the things that will enable those types of behaviors. Cause I've gone through times where I'm not living as healthy as I want to, or I'm not, I have a new owner's manual that's like, for Ken to operate well, he needs the following things. And I've listed all the things that I need, which is, listening to the right music, it's meditating, it's running, it's being around the right people, it's having the right, like, I've got a giant list of things. It's not reading the news. And so you have to have that like owner's manual of, if you want to operate as effective as we do and not die, like, there's certain things that just make life a lot easier to live. And I think it's plugging those things in. So watching you go between everything and have the same energy, that's the thing. Like, you didn't slow down and you also didn't lose energy, and you were as alive on one call as you were on the next. Like, that's a lot for most brains to be able to function with. We just happen to have the right brain for that.
Yeah, no, I wrote a post, I think it was I don't think I wrote this before, but there was this, I don't know if it was a poem or something about people that, get energy from chaos. And I'm very different than my wife. Like, I do get energy from chaos, and I do get pumped up overcoming fear and jumping into new situations and taking on new problems. But I do think a lot of those things are just gifts, but you do got to flex that muscle. And in today's mortgage business, I mean, it's a war out there. It's a tough time in the mortgage space, and it's never been more important that people treat their body right and do the right things if they want to get through this market.
Yeah. So you started your company before I did. You were, what, 2000?
No. I mean, I started at like 96, I think.
96. And so you were already like, SaaS product before SaaS was a thing. You were,
no, it wasn't.
out there.
SaaS had not become a thing. The internet had not become a thing. I was really fortunate when I started selling. I think it was $9.95 for the first year, and it was $95 annual maintenance. And we did build a piece of technology that timed out, so people, they had to call and get it turned back on. But it was not SaaS and software as a service was, that was not an acronym. It had not been invented. I don't remember exactly what year. I would say probably 2012. We, maybe 2013, 14, we became a SaaS platform.
Uh-huh. But you were before it all. So when
early days.
Yeah. You built that in an industry. So if we're talking about back then, fairly volatile industry. I remember I got in 98 and rates were pretty bad. Yeah. As it boomed, everything's, flowing. And I want to kind of look at that as compared to right now. We were in this, I remember 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, everybody's making tons of money. We're all having fun. You were speaking all over, everybody's booming. Things are great. 2007, 2008, obviously things turned. Having people pay you on a monthly or an annual membership, or get the solution, for a fee, and then a ton of people left the business. Do you remember like the feeling of when you realize, oh dang, this could hurt?
Oh, I mean, it was devastating. I mean, we went from 20,000 customers to probably less than 1,000. I went from almost 40 employees to 12. Multiple layoffs. I mean, the meltdown was financially devastating. It was the first time in my career where I had to do like a mass layoff. Like literally, lay off half my team multiple times. I mean, it was horrible from a business perspective. The meltdown was it was devastating.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember when you made? I feel like there's a point when people make a decision like, all right, I just have to do this. Like, I'm going to come around. I'm thinking fight, flight, freeze. Do you remember what your reaction was to it? Did you, which of those categories would you say you fell into?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know when I established this belief in this quote, but I mean, I really believe what I'm going to say next at a very core level. But I mean, everything happens for the best. It's just a matter of changing your perspective till you see it that way. Mm-hmm. And so, that's just always been a mantra that I've had. Another one that my wife and I can't remember where we first saw it, but it was right before we had kids. and our oldest is 24, so it must have been 25, 26, 27 years ago. Um, and it was this poem and this picture, and it said, two men in a prison cell, one man sees the bars, the other sees the stars. And I was just like, I always want to see the stars, and I do by and large. But I have to tell myself those things. When we're having markets where there are bars, and you get to choose. Do you want to see the bars or do you want to see the stars? And more times than not, I intuitively, naturally see the stars. And when things get tough, I've got to like remind myself, like, adjust your perspective. This is going to get you better. I love Jocko Willings.
Mhm.
Anyone's listened to this, I feel like everybody in the mortgage business has heard Jocko tell his good story. Like, bad stuff happened, good. But it's that same mantra. And I think there's a lot of ways of saying that mantra. But I think when times get tough like they are in the industry, you gotta just say it more often, and you gotta remind yourself and just get through the day. There will be better days.
I love that bars or stars thing. Cause I mean, when you said that, I literally got the chills where I was like, oh dang. Cause I so badly want to be a stars guy. And some days are bars days where I'm like, all I see is the surrounding is really, really bad. And I'm trying to like reach back and go, yeah, that's exactly how I felt before. And I made it through. So like I've been saying lately, the machine keeps moving. Like this machine will keep moving and it will get to the other side and then it's going to be awesome. But like that reminder, and I love that you said Jocko too. Have you read Dave Goggins or listened to Dave Goggins' new one?
Can't hurt me, and his new one, yeah, no, they're fantastic. I've listened. The audiobooks are the best.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I just finished the audiobook of his new one and it's insane. He interviews his mom. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
His mom was intense. By the way, there was another metaphor that I think about often, and it was Daniel Harkavy. It was the first time I went to one of their events. What were their events called
Which ones? Oh, they did the
Sun River, Sun River.
Yeah. I was in Masters Coach, but that wasn't it.
3-day plan.
Yeah.
I went to this one event, or I went to the event, and then they had like a breakout section, and I can't remember what the theme of the presentation was, but he showed these pictures of some people, and he had members of his family, and they were at this cliff looking out over at the ocean, and he's like, some people are just naturally wired, and he showed one of his kids. It was just like, yeah, and he had a side shot, was just looking out over the ocean. And then one of his kids was like looking down at the rocks, it was just like, and he's like, there's just this natural, and some people are just wired. Like I am wired to naturally like look out at the ocean and don't even know the cliffs are there. And some people are naturally wired, but I think in these markets, we all got to work harder to see the positive.
I'm going to be selfish and ask questions for myself right now. So one of the struggles I have is I see the positive all the time and it's awesome. I mean, everything is awesome. I only had, that 18 months of everything not being awesome. But other than that, I can see the best in everything. How do you keep that? And I know part of it is like you and I get to talk. So you talk to people who are like you, but how do you handle the way other people take you when you're not willing to live in that mindset of, yeah, everything sucks and it will always suck. Like, I feel like I clash against a mentality of, yeah, it's probably going to suck now. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to. Like, it's only going to suck if you guys say that. Like, stop saying that. Think good. Like, how do you influence, I guess is the word I'm looking for. How do you influence others to come alongside in a market where everybody's like, yeah, it sucks. Like, or do you not? Or you just be you?
Well, first of all, I don't want to come across as I have that one figured out. I mean, I guess that. No one's ever. Well, my wife probably said. First time I heard the word toxic positivity,
Yeah.
I think last year. I heard that. Not calling me out, although I am sure I have been, in that guy, that toxic positivity person, like that is within my personality style. and I've shown up that way. But for the most part, one, I try to really give people empathy. I think great leaders give empathy. I think great leadership is having self-awareness. Obviously, none of us are perfectly self-aware, but really working on self-awareness. And then for me personally, something that I'm a big fan of the Four Agreements. I consider it one of the most important books I've ever read. I don't think I've read it every single year, but I read it almost annually, just as a reminder. And so my message to you is, I don't take it personally. Like, I am going to be positive. I think it only becomes toxic when you don't have empathy for other folks and you're shoving that positivity down their throat. And so if anything, maybe I just try to throttle it back and like, hey, we don't have to agree. This is how I see it. I always look at it almost like selling ideas to a group. Like, even though I've been a CEO of a company, it's not like everybody wants to do my ideas, not like I can sell every idea. So I always like kind of back up and go, two things are happening here. One, I may be wrong. I may not be seeing this right. And two, I may not be doing a good enough job of selling my view of the world or selling my idea. So don't have it figured out, bro. I bump into that tension as well, but one, I don't take it personally. I still stay with me and try to show empathy, and then try to get more clever at communicating in a way that people, buy into my view.
In empathy, I would say, I mean, you live a life of empathy. Like, your whole business model was go help people. Like, it was care. And I got to see you, because I mean, that was December that I was out, and that was a time that the industry was really starting to feel it. And so I got to see you feel it with them. So you don't stand to the side and go, why aren't we happy? You dive in and say, how can, we work together to make things better? So that at least was my experience with you.
I try hard, man. That's another thing. I work hard and try hard to do the right thing by people.
So coming forward to like right now, are you handling, like, do you see, if you were to stand away like and kind of look at Dave Savage in 2022 and Dave Savage in 2008, do you see a better Dave? And if so, what are the big differences you see in yourself?
Oh, wow. Well, of course, I mean, I think we all, every year we look back and go, we're better.
Mm-hmm.
What's different? I mean, there's no doubt from a leadership perspective. I mean, I have evolved. By the way, I hadn't read the Four Agreements in 2008, and while some of those Four Agreements I did live naturally, but I make a whole lot less assumptions now. I take a whole lot less personally now. I'm a whole lot better at not thinking I'm always right. I think I've just become wiser, which I hope all of us do. I mean, I do believe that, there are people though that get bitter, and there are people that get better. And that's another thing that I work hard on, is just, try to be that person that's getting better every year. So no, there's a very big difference. But if I had to put it around any one thing, I'm just kind of more well-read. And I probably own, like, if I'm not selling my idea or I'm not getting people to go in my direction, I just own it more. It's not like, oh, they don't get it. I'm like, oh, I need to do a better job at helping them get it. And I think I've 10x'd who I was then versus who I am now.
I love that. I'm struggling with that too. Like, maybe I didn't communicate effectively or communicate my vision. How do I, go back and communicate it differently? Is there a book or a podcast you'd recommend for, somebody who needs to get better at really defining things, vision better?
Oh, well, I mean, Rene Rodriguez, Amplify, his book, Amplify. I've been through his Amplify workshop 3 times. When it comes to, connecting your mission, heart and head, it's amazing. When it comes to the skills of influence, it's amazing. Heck, just from, when I went from, and I think I did my first Amplify right before COVID shut down. Well, actually, I did my first one in January of 2020, so a couple months before COVID went down, and then I did three within 3 months. And the last one I did was like literally 2 or 3 weeks before the COVID shutdown, and so that would be the book. And I would even push people, go to his event, go through that process. But if you want to amplify your influence, like your ability to have influence over others, that's my North Star.
The Amplify conference, I imagine, in fact, I'm actually surprised I never got a bill for this, but I imagine there's still a carpet that's completely soaked in a hotel room from me crying when I realized what I was going to talk about the day of that last speech. At that conference, I was like, I was going to phone it in because Renee has us do these, has us speak and like learn to just pull stuff out. And I was like, I'm going to phone it in and kind of do one of the speeches I normally do. And I'm like, no, I got to challenge myself. And the moment I realized why I do what I do in this one area, it just tears everywhere. And I was like, dang, that process resulted in some really solid self-reflection. So I agree with you. That's a really good way to go. I'm starting to ask people this question, and I love the answers so far. I say I fail a lot, right? I use the word fail constantly. I'm like, yeah, we failed at that. Like we failed at that. And we worked hard, but if it didn't work, I refer to it as a failure. And in my brain, failure doesn't mean it's not bad. Failure is only bad if we do it a couple times and don't make any changes. I look back at my life and it's full of failure that I turned into really cool things. What is your favorite failure or the one that led to the best results?
Well, I mean, a thing that I did that was a mistake at the time, but has turned into a life mission and a better me and what I think will be a better outcome for the world was pre-meltdown. I think it was 2006, might have been early 2007. But I think it was late 2006. Sig Anderman, the CEO of Encompass, then Ellie Mae, wanted to buy a mortgage coach, and made a really, at the time, I didn't think it was a great offer, or else I would have taken it, but it was a really great offer. I mean, it would have been a life-changing, if anybody knows, what the valuation of Encompass became, it would have been a, significant financial freedom move to sell the business. And in the, literally months, it wasn't like years later, like months later, the industry disintegrated. So I could have sold the company, got some cash, got a lot of stock, and, had a very different experience during the meltdown than I did. And it was, not only, laying people off, not only having my business go down, having my income radically shrink, but knowing that now at this point, I didn't know that Encompass and Ellie Mae was going to become a multi-billion-dollar business.
Right.
I wouldn't have had to lay people off, and I would have had even more millions in my bank account. So I didn't know just how big of a mistake, but I knew it was a mistake. And over the course of about a year, I, was this will all work out. This will all work out. And then I watched the Simon Sinek TED Talk, The Power of Why. And I watched it like on a Friday. And over the course of the weekend, it was transformative because I changed my why. My why is not being a SaaS technology entrepreneur to make millions of dollars, which, by the way, that was my why, was just, I had a dollar amount, a number of millions of dollars that I wanted in the bank, a number of millions of dollars that I wanted to sell the company for. And I don't want to come across too altruistic. I mean, I still had some, significant financial goals, but I was like, I was meant not to sell Mortgage Coach because this will be the company. I will be the entrepreneur that changed how people get into debt in America. And I really developed this why Mortgage Coach? Why should a family get a total cost analysis? And it was so much more impactful than just improved conversion, increased profitability, all these business metrics. It was like, oh no, we're going to change how people get into debt. And of course, it led to a great payday. I did sell the company. I did, achieve financial freedom, and we are changing how people get into debt in America. And I really do believe, this, now that we're the trust engine, this new transaction, like, it's just going to be a matter of years. I mean, by 2025, we will really have shifted how borrowers borrow and how people achieve financial freedom through mortgages. And that all happened because of a mistake. It was a mistake. It was a failure. And that's a big one,
Yeah.
a big negative one and a big positive one at the same time.
But you got the experience of actually going back through it, digging in, dealing with the pain, getting to the other side of it, getting the big win, going back to where we started, which is that acupressure mat is such a small version of this. Of like, I remember when we laid down on the acupressure mats, and you're like, by the way, the first minute's gonna suck, and I'm like, okay, like, because you told me that, I wasn't complaining in the first minute. I was like, oh, this does suck. And then it turns to warmth, and then it turns to focus. And same thing with, I think, going into this market, starting with, this is going to suck for a while, and just acknowledging that and going, but then it's going to turn okay, and then it's going to turn awesome. I want to end with asking you a question, just because I think there's some real value here. I love watching you parent, and you don't post a lot about your kids, but when you post, it's so meaningful. And I watched you run a business and show up at Jack's games when he was playing lacrosse in college, and you showed up, for Sid, and you're so proud, and you talk about them in such an awesome way. And yet you're also running this business. You also travel a ton. I know I don't believe in like a life balance. There's some magical balance, but like, how did you do that for that many years, traveling and maintaining those relationships, both with Kelly and also with the kids?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I definitely don't want to come across like I'm the poster child of balance. I mean, I'm a workaholic, and my wife would call that out, and I love what I do. Like my work is a pleasure, but my kids and my family are number one, and when it came to the things that matter most, they're in the calendar, and I'm very proud of the fact that, through my kids, school, I missed one lacrosse game. And the only reason why I missed that lacrosse game is because they moved the game. The game got canceled, it got rescheduled, and I was scheduled to be on stage. And, I had made a commitment to be on stage somewhere. So I missed one lacrosse game in his high school career.
Oh my God, in 4 years.
Yeah, well, remember, he's a COVID senior, so his year was, but I would have not missed a game his senior year, but he didn't have a full senior year games. But freshman, sophomore, junior year, I missed one game, but I scheduled it. Like the day the event came out, it went in my calendar. My team knew that I wasn't speaking, I wasn't traveling, and I was going to be at those games. So I just think it's prioritizing, but at the same time, I work hard. I work a lot, but I do blend that into family, and my kids have got used to that, me blending life, work into family.
And they're turning out awesome, by the way. We were talking a couple hours ago, we were talking about parenting, and you really don't know. It's like making a batch of beer, it has to sit for 3 or 4 weeks to ferment and all that stuff. And so you do all this work and you have no idea what the end result will be until way later. And with kids, it's like somewhere in the 20s, they start like showing you that they actually listened and they actually, caught these things, and they're kind of becoming, the person that you would hope that they would become. So it's always awesome when you can see that way later and go, okay, it totally worked. Like, but there's a lot of time, like specifically 11-year-old girls, where you're like, I have no idea how this is going to turn out. Like, this could be horrible, but yeah, they're definitely doing well. So job well done, sir.
Well, I will give Kelly the majority of that credit. My wife is a saint. She's just the most amazing woman, most unselfish person I've ever known. And, together it's come out pretty well, but she gets most of the credit.
Dude, she goes to bat for the kids, and that is awesome. So yeah, very cool, dude. Hey, I'm gonna let you go. This has been awesome. I really appreciate it. I think we can learn from each other so much, and I learned that, during our hangout, but also It's come up on a couple of these conversations that part of success, a huge part of success, people keep coming back to, is knowing people that you can count on, and that when you need something or you need to like think your way through something, that you've got people for that. And dude, you have been that for me for so long, where I knew I could just call you and be like, dude, you've done this, I haven't, like, what am I not thinking about? And you just have this way of talking me and walking me through a lot of the stuff that I've been through. So you're proof that if you've got people that have gone before you, that, you're going to be way better off than if you try to skate through this life on your own. So I appreciate you, and I thank you for that.
I appreciate you, brother. I love this conversation. I love that backdrop with the Coop Mountain in the back.
Oh yeah.
Pretty cool. And congrats on your new podcast. Honored to be interviewed on it.
Thank you, sir. And you're launching a new one.
I am launching a new one soon.
Tell everybody about that real fast?
Yeah, well, it's called Savage Insights.
Love that.
Savage Insights is, you can go to savageinsights.com. Right now it's, linked tree with a bunch of links. But once the podcast is there, I'll probably still have links to things, but there'll always be a link to the most recent podcast. But I mean, it's been something I've wanted to do for a long time. I mean, I've been, doing a YouTube channel for sure a decade. I think it's over 15 years that I've had this Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, not slowing down on that. We're still Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, but I want to do something that's just a pure podcast, Savage Insights, where I interview cool people that are probably going to be not just loan officers, but people that are really helping local referral-based advisors be more successful. So I'll go beyond mortgage. I'll probably, interview some realtors, some financial planners, some people outside of that, but there'll be this North Star of if local referral-based advisors do it right, they're helping people achieve financial freedom. They're helping people live their best authentic lives. Because I really do believe that if advisors could go beyond the transaction, whatever that is, if it's a realtor, go beyond the transaction and really care about the long-term financial well-being of that client. And if advisors can do that, guys, they got nothing to worry about. But I also do believe if local advisors don't do that, and they just continue to, whether it's a real estate agent, a life insurance agent, if they focus on the transaction, they're going to be obsolete within a decade. Like the machine will take their job. They've got to do something more. So Savage Insights is going to be dedicated to shining a light on those leaders, the practices of those leaders, and then me just calling out things that I think are super important as I do those interviews.
Dude, I love that you sold your company and it didn't slow you down one bit. It actually sped you up on doing more for this industry and taking care of people. I freaking love that. So on brand for Dave Savage. Dude, thank you. And I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, brother. Have a good one.
See you, bud.